Shabbat Shalom.
There we go.
Thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Having some issues with pushing the mute button. We're back. We are back. Continuing with our look at the triennial Torah portion. We are going to be looking at Genesis chapter 28. Genesis 28, which is called, and he called Yaakov. And he called Yaakov. We're going to be looking at this chapter in its entirety. It's a short chapter, 22 verses. Have some things that we want to discuss. Inside of these chapters, we covet your comments. Go ahead and put your comments over here in the comments section. Get some your added inputs to the discussion is greatly desired. Okay, so while we go ahead and get ready to put the verses up on the screen here, remind everybody to share the video so that we can get this get these words out across the internet land. If you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Share these videos with all your friends. Go ahead and put your comments down in there so that they can enrich our conversations. And we'll go ahead and pull up the chapter here. Go ahead and read that, starting with the first verse there, nice and loud, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it after. Go ahead.
Genesis 28. And Yitzchak called Jacob and blessed him, and commanded him, and said to him, Do not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padam Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take a wife for yourself from there, from the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. And El Shaddai bless you, and make you fruitful, and increase you, and you shall become an assembly of peoples, and give you the blessing of Abraham to you and your seed with you, so that you inherit the land of your sojournings, which Elohim gave to Abraham. So Yitzchak sent Jacob away, and he went to Padam Aram, to Laban, son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Ribkah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. And Esau saw that Yitzchak had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padam Aram to take himself a wife from there. And that as he blessed him, he gave him a command, saying, Do not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother, and had gone to Padan Aram. So Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan did not please his father Yitzchak. And Esau went to Yishmael, and took Mahalath, the daughter of Yishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife, besides the wives he had. And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he came upon a place and stopped over for the night. The sun had set. And he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head. And he lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed and saw a ladder set up on the earth, and its top reached to the heavens, and saw messengers of Elohim going up and coming down on it. And see, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am Yahweh Elohim of Abraham your father, and the Elohim of Yitzchak. The land on which you are lying, I give it to you and your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall break forth to the west and to the east, to the north and the south. And all the clans of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your seed. And see, I am with you, and shall guard you wherever you go, and shall bring you back to this land. For I am not going to leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. And Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Truly Yahweh is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of Elohim, and this is the gate of the heavens. And Jacob rose early in the morning and took the stone that he had put at his head, set it up as a standing column, and poured oil on top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel. However, the name of that city had been Luz previously. And Jacob made a vow, saying, Seeing Elohim is with me, and has kept me in this way that I am going, and has given me bread to eat and a garment to put on, when I have returned to my father's house in peace, and Yahweh has been my Elohim. Then this stone which I have set as a standing column shall be Elohim's house. And of all that you give me, I shall certainly give you a tenth.
Okay, all right, very good. All right. Just see thing here. All right, let me go ahead and go back up to the top. Very good. Let's look. We have a few things to deal with over here in terms of the chapter. We go back to the beginning. We see that just as we saw in the previous chapter, where Yaakov had received the blessing, he got the firstborn blessing that he received. And we see now that Yitzhak is sending off Yaakov because of the danger that has came to Yaakov as a result of him receiving the blessing that Esau wanted for himself. And you know, we spoke about that last week, but I wanted to look at when we look at, let's see here, verse 2, where he actually, Isaac here gives the instructions to go to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take a wife from there, from the daughters of Laban, very specific, your mother's brother. And so when we think about this, you know, something that we've seen here, you know, up until this point, you know, looking at Bereshit, if we were to start at the beginning, there is a pattern. There's a pattern that we see with Abraham, Isaac, these traditions held by their fathers that they marry their own. They marry their own.
Yeah.
Here he's sending off Jacob specifically to the daughters of Laban. And we see this thing that we see going on over here is interesting because it doesn't seem as if, I mean, we see that this command, I would say, is given from the Father to the Son, but for some reason, I don't feel like this is something that, like, he didn't know about the tradition prior to it being vocalized here, right here. Because again, we see before Abraham left, this was something that he did, right? This is something that was, insisted upon for Isaac in terms of the servant going out to even find the bride that he has. And then now again we see with Jacob that he is being sent out so that he himself can do the same. Another thing that we see over here, continuing on with this, when we look in verse 3, we'll talk more about this family tradition here in a moment. We see that in verse 3, where the blessing is that El Shaddai bless you. El Shaddai bless you. We talked about El Shaddai some weeks prior. When we think about this name, this title that is given to the Most High, it causes us to think about the power, the might of the Most High. And also when we look at the what's even happened to this point, it seems that Jacob is even able to get understanding, at least up until this point, and then also moving forward, because remember, he's going into exile here, so he's going to have to lean on the idea of Yahweh as being El Shaddai, as him being the Almighty One, as him being a protector of him in this time of need, which up until this point it doesn't seem that he's as being a man of the tent, he hasn't really needed this side, to see this side of the Most High. And so we look over here, we see that, and let me pull this up. Where it says, El Shaddai bless you and make you fruitful, and increase you and give you the blessing of Abraham. It's interesting that we see that where it speaks of the blessing of Abraham, Jacob, of course, is included in this. And so when we think about this idea of this blessing of Abraham, is dealing with this, with the Abrahamic covenant, right? When we see this blessing of Abraham, this is the continuance here of what it is that the Most High has called for this particular family line to participate and benefit from. Okay, and so we see that this blessing is given, this blessing from the Almighty. He calls for him to be blessed. He calls for him to be fruitful. He calls for him to increase, and for his peoples to actually become an what's this word here? Assembly. Okay, so let me see this word here. Is it? I mean, that's what it should be, right? It's interesting. I just wanted to just see what that is. Multiply, mayest thou be a multitude of people. Yes, that's what it is. Company, congregation, multitude. It just kind of speaks to it, when you look at fruitful, increase, an assembly of peoples. It's almost like it's the same thing, really. To be fruitful is to bring forth fruit, right? Para is a word to bear fruit, and to increase you or to multiply you, and for you to become an assembly of peoples. It's like it's giving you these different aspects of really the same idea of multiplicity. But I guess if one could multiply and not actually be an assembly of peoples necessarily, he could just be scattered all over the place and not be, one thing. And so I think when we think about the idea of verse 3 in terms of it giving you these different variations of the same idea in terms of being fruitful, increasing, becoming an assembly of peoples, and then also coupling that with what he initially instructs Jacob to do in terms of go and finding a daughter of Laban to wife, right? It's very specific, right? Because he could go and increase and and be fruitful and be an assembly of peoples all over the place, right? Kind of what Esau's kind of doing. Right, we see he took on 2 wives at once in the other chapter, and then also in this chapter we see that he finds another one, and and not the fact that has these multiple wives, but they're like different peoples, right? They're different kinds of peoples all over the place, and so when we look at verse 3. And verse 2 kind of combined over here, we see that, this is kind of a singular idea because Isaac is calling for Jacob to increase, their specific bloodline because there's an actual purpose that is, embedded in this covenant. And so I just wanted to say that really quick, but let's go back over. Let's drop down to verse, read for us verse 8 and 9 again here.
Verse 8 and 9, 28, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. 8 says, So Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan did not please his father Yitzhak, and Esau went to Ishmael and took Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife, besides the wives he had.
Okay, right. So we see that this is interesting because I'm not sure how he saw this. Like, I don't know how he saw this. That the daughters didn't please his father. I don't know if it has anything to do necessarily with what we see back in Genesis 26. Let's go back real quick here.
26.
Genesis 26. 26 verse 30. Genesis 26:35.
35.
Read 34 and 35.
And Esau was 40 years old. He took as wives Yehudith, the daughter of Beeri, the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite. And they were a bitterness of spirit to Yitzhak and Ribcha.
Okay, so when we look at this verse here, and they were a bitterness of spirit to Isaac and Rebekah. They were a grief of mind, it says in the King James. The word there for bitterness is morah. Bitterness, trouble, grief. It's from the word marar, like what we talk about at Passover, the bitter herbs, right? So it has the sense of harshness, embitterment, offensiveness, affliction, something that has been made bitter, right? And so, but it says of spirit, or in the King James it says of mind. That word actually is ruach here, right? And so ruach, when we look at ruach, it is wind or breath. And so we know what Yeshua talks about when he talks about the word. He talks about the spirit. He talks about the ruach in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, chapter 3 and verse 8. He says, hold on, let me just pull that up so we can see it over here. Because we want to talk about the ruach. I keep losing
Your mouse.
my mouse. Okay, here we go.
John 3 and...
Here, let me put it up here.
Okay.
John 3 and 8.
John.
Actually, read 6, 7, and 8.
That which has been born of the flesh is flesh, and that which has been born of the spirit is spirit. Do not marvel that I said to you, you have to be born from above. The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear the sound of it, but do not know where it comes from and where it goes. So is everyone who has been born of the Spirit.
Okay, so he's talking some metaphysicalness over here in reference to the spirit, right? The wind blows and you can feel the wind, but you can't see it, right? And so when we think about the ruach, when we think about the spirit, it's this thing that you see the effects of the spirit, but you can't really see it, the actual spirit, because what we're talking about is something that's internal, right? It's an internal thing, right? And so when we think about the idea of Isaac and Rebekah being grieved, being bitter in their mind, in their soul, was their bitterness something that was vocalized necessarily? I don't know. It don't say necessarily. Don't say. Was this thing vocalized, or was this a thing that we think about as being this family tradition that was from the beginning? That Esau, we see, compromises, where he knows the thing that he did was out of bounds in terms of the family ways.
Taboo.
Taboo. Yes. I'm saying that this idea should have been something that was understood, right? And so whether they went to Esau and said, "Oh, this," like shook their head as was a thing that that was done. Whether they go there and they shake their head at what he's done and actually vocalize this thing, this bitterness that they have inside of them. Whether they did that or not, we don't know, but we know that there was an issue. And we also see when we look in this chapter, it says that he, 28. Oh, he saw that the daughters of Canaan didn't please his father. So he has this, he has a particular understanding. The issue that we have with this is that whatever reason that Isaac has, and as Isaac and Rebekah have in their minds for not being pleased with the Canaanites, he goes and finds an Ishmaelite.
I guess he thought that was getting closer.
I don't believe that.
You don't think so?
No, I don't believe that.
I thought he was just trying to do what he could.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that he was trying to do better.
What do you
Right?
think?
I believe that he should have known. I believe he should have known that what they do is go back to the land of their fathers for wives.
I thought he got close enough.
Oh, I mean, maybe,
Close enough.
maybe.
I mean, close but no cigar.
I don't believe that was in his.
His
No.
mentality.
No, I don't feel that. I think that when we look at this again, because it is this pattern that we see in the family, and we don't. I don't know what we don't see him sitting by the wayside teaching this to his children all the time in terms of this idea, but. We saw what it happened with Abraham before he even came out. He talks back about his olden days, and we see that's what he did. We see that whenever Isaac's wife is found, we see that's what he did. And then we also see that when now all of a sudden there's this issue that's, it's just, what is this? It's not a coincidence, right? It's a specific thing that they specifically did. And it's a principle. It's a principle that, is that we find in the scriptures over here. When we let's look over at, because when we think about this point here has been referenced to in back-to-back chapters at 3 times at this point, that there's an issue with having these outside wives, particularly I would say particularly these Canaanites. However, we have not only the fact that there's a prohibition of these particular ones, but the fact that he's calling for your pool, so to speak, to actually be from a specific place. And so it's like we see both of these things going on, where it seems as if this is something that they should have a better understanding if they in fact are trying to do that which is pleasing in the sight of their family traditions at this point. I don't think Esau is into that at all. I don't think he's into it. What do we have down here? I didn't see. Comments gain the landmass that was promised to Abraham, inherited by Jacob and his descendants by the Most High, extends the borders of the state of Israel as we know it today. Oh, yes. When we go and think about the promise that was given to Abraham, it definitely was a massive acquiring that was given. And every time we see as the sons come on the scene and kind of receive this blessing, this blessing is kind of reinstituted and fortified with each son, as we see that here, where this blessing of Abraham is kind of repronounced and given to Jacob. Abraham had to tell Azar. And because there is an issue, Jacob is told to go there for a wife. It wasn't instinctual. I can't argue because the scripture doesn't give you that. I'm just trying to think about from a practical standpoint, looking at this, thinking about, in real life, right? We have these scriptures given to us, and it's just kind of an outline, really, of these people's lives, right? And I can only imagine, especially when we see kind of the strength of, like, I can't be. When I look at the response to what Esau did, for instance, by Isaac and Rebekah, they're grieved in their heart. They're sorry. But they don't have a right to be sorry if they never made it clear to him what it is that they expected from them. If I have a particular expectation for my children, and I never make that expectation known to them, if they go outside of that expectation that I have for them, it's my fault. It's my fault. I haven't made my expectations clear to them enough for them to honor the thing that I want for them to be doing. And so I think that, again, we see where the emphasis is put, and I feel like so much emphasis is in fact put that it's probable that there's more times that these things could have been spoken about with the children outside of what we see over here. I want to go over to Proverbs. Because the main thing that we can learn from when we look at this thing that's brought up at this point 3 times is the fact that the Most High, again, we look at the Torah, we look at the Most High and what He gives us in the Torah, is the fact that He wants a pure, unadulterated product. We being the product. If He says that He is holy, and then we, as His people, should also be holy. The Most High is pure, right? And He wants for His people also to be pure. He's calling for here. Before we go to Proverbs, let's go to 2 Corinthians. Let's look at 2 Corinthians real fast. Because these people's family tradition is not to be mixing with these
Canaanites.
other peoples.
Especially.
And specifically not only mixing with these other peoples, but I don't want to sound like an animal. Joining themselves in marriage with people that are like unto themselves. Right? We see a specific prohibition of these particular ones, the Canaanites, and all of their people. You know, there's 7 nations that we deal with the Canaanites. But specifically, you go back to the land of your fathers and find a wife from those people. But this is a principle that we're finding when we see, again, the Most High, when he gives his Torah, he's given us his Torah so that we know how to behave as he would behave if he actually walked around on earth. And so let's go over to 2 Corinthians 6. Because Paul, he's given us this same principle. But this is a Torah principle. It's not something that he made up. This is something that we could go back that even predates the Torah. It goes before the Torah. We see this principle in the scriptures. Go down to verse, let's see, 14. Start reading there in verse 14 right there.
Do not become unevenly yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness and lawlessness? And what fellowship has light with darkness? And what agreement has Messiah with Belial? Or what part does a believer have with an unbeliever? And what union has the dwelling place of Elohim with idols? For you are a dwelling place of the living Elohim. As Elohim has said, I shall dwell in them and walk among them. And I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Therefore, come out from among them and be separate, says Yahweh. And do not touch what is unclean, and I shall receive you. And I shall be a father to you, and you shall be sons and daughters to me, says Yahweh the Almighty.
Okay, very good. So we see over here, this is something that Paul is giving to people, right? Again, but this is a Torah principle. We see this is something that, in terms of, well, first of all, when we think about this being yoked here, what is that? What is that word there? Yoked. Yoked together. For what partnership? Oh, I want to look at this word here. What partnership? Unequally yoked together is this word here, compound word, yoke, to yoke up differently. Okay, to associate discordantly, unequally yoked, two different things bound together, right? And when you think about things that would be unequally yoked, you know, they wouldn't be moving in the same direction. They're fighting against each other. The first thing he says is righteousness with lawlessness, right? Righteousness with lawlessness. These two things are moving in the opposite direction, light and dark. These things counterbalance each other. The more dark you have in light, cancels out the light. The more light you have in dark cancels out the dark, right? You have these two opposite things. And so when you think about the what the Most High was establishing with his people through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, creating a nation, right? Creating this people that he says that he wants to grow into this assembly of peoples, right? He can't have this outside influence coming and destroying the thing that he's establishing here, right? And so when we look over here at this word here, partnership, in verse 14, King James says fellowship. Participation, that is intercourse. Fellowship is a intimate relationship, right? This binding, this yoking to one another, right? This isn't just kind of casual acquaintances.
Small talk.
Small talk is just something that you can have small talk with anyone, right? But an actual relationship, the thing that you do affects the things that I'm doing, and vice versa. I'm a binding to you, right? You can't have a close friendship with unbelievers, those that are different from you. So when we look back to what's going on with Isaac's children, we're talking about marriage, right? We're talking about marriage. We're talking about the building of families, right? That is most certainly inside the scope of what we see over here in terms of being yoked with unbelievers as being a believer, right? And so when we think about the message that we see with what was being taught to Abraham, Isaac, and now it's given to Jacob over here, this thing that was a thing that this is what the family did, right? This is what they did as a family. This was something that was important to them, as a particular tribe. And so when we think about our connection to Abraham, when we think about what it is that we see in the underlying principles that we see with this idea, when we look over at 2 Corinthians and think about this idea of this binding, mixing with these other nations. I'm saying nations because we're thinking about these ideas that go with these other nations, right? We're thinking about the idea of similarity, right? The Most High instructing his people at its foundation is necessary for it to be a solid foundation, right? And so when you lived in this society, when people they worshipped all types of things. they had a different God for everything, right? If they wanted rain, or if they wanted babies, or if they wanted their crops or whatever, they had a God for each one of those things. And so the Most High moving Abraham away from these ways into the idea of serving Elohim, serving Yah, the Most High, the one true and living Elohim, he needed to have this foundation in place. And so the same thing is true for us as the children of Abraham, right? Paul's using this in the context of those believers in Messiah, but it's kind of a universal thought process that we should really have in our minds, is that when we have these relationships of influence, marriage, even friendships, these close relationships, we can't be bound to these unbelieving peoples, right? Because when you have these relationships where these people have influence over the things that you're going to be doing, even thinking, it's always going to pull you over into a space where you don't want to be. I saw an interesting kind of illustration where there was a person standing in a chair and a person standing on the floor, right? And so it's way easier for somebody on the ground to pull somebody down from a chair than it is for somebody in the chair to pull that person up into the chair, right? Two equals. The person on the floor is always going to be able to pull the person down off of the chair easier than someone is able to pull that equal person up into the chair. And so the same thing is true when we think about those living in the light and those living in darkness. The same thing is true when we think about those living in righteousness and those living in lawlessness. It's always going to be easier for that lawless one to bring the law-abiding citizen into lawlessness than the other way around. And so, and again, we look back, this is a principle that we see. Now, when we think about I think that, now this is just me saying these things. Now I think that when you think about going to the example in terms of Jacob going to the daughters of Laban. Now these were his kinsmen, but they didn't come out. Right? They didn't come out, so they had their things over there. But I think that the Most High at this point is looking at this deeper thing that's going on, and it's a principle thing that we can look at, because they obviously had their little trinkets and things that they had. But the principle, I think, is an important part that stands over here. Let's look at this. The wisdom of the world teaches to accept that which is different. If not, it can be viewed as discrimination, and in some cases, even considered not legal. This is interesting because I am able to accept the differences. I can accept people being however they want to be. I can accept them. I think this is where some of the gray areas come in, because if a man wants to act like a man, like a woman, I can accept that. I accept it. I think he can do whatever he wants to do. Right? but I don't have to. I don't have to like it.
They want you to like
Is
it.
liking it, accepting it? I think they give us these. I know what you're saying.
He's saying.
I know
saying
what
they
he's
want
saying.
you to like it. Right?
I know, but I don't know if that's the same thing though. I know what he's saying. I know that he probably would say the same thing that I'm saying. But this world that we live in, they use these terms, and
They want to make you.
I don't think that they're using these terms correctly. I don't think. I can accept all peoples. What's it mean? What does accept even mean? What does it mean? Because maybe I don't. Maybe I need to. Maybe I don't accept all peoples.
They want you. They want you to say you're a cis.
I am
male.
cis.
I mean, but they want you to put yourself in that category as if the other people are just normal. You're so stop.
Let me see here. Let me see what this word means. Because maybe I don't accept all peoples. I don't know. I feel like I do. Okay. Accept, to take or receive what is offered with a consenting mind, to receive with approbation or favor.
Oh.
I'm not even sure what that means. Let's see here. Observe the difference between receive and accept. He received and let's go to number 2. To regard with partiality, to value or esteem. Wait a second. Maybe I don't accept everyone's that's different. Because I don't value or esteem some of these different viewpoints. Let's see. Consent or agree to receive as terms of a contract, as to accept a treaty, to understand, to have a particular idea of, to receive in a particular sense. Well, maybe maybe
You don't accept.
maybe I don't accept
You
differences.
You just think that people can do with it.
I do think people have the right to do whatever they want to do. And I'm not going to judge you based on whatever you feel like you need to do or want to do or believe or whatever. But don't have to make me want to agree though. Like I can have my own thoughts about something. And I think that's where in this world that we live in, they want everybody to be like robots and think the same thing. Where we're different. We are different. And we're called to be different. By the Elohim that we serve. Right? And so when we look at what Paul talks about in terms of not being bound in fellowship with these other peoples, again, these are biblical principles that he's bringing out. Let's look over in Deuteronomy 7. Start reading over there at the first verse right here. Hold on one second. Let's see what Cam's saying in the comments here. If someone offered you $1,000 and you knew it was stolen, would you accept it? Oh, accepting stolen property? I knew it was stolen. $1,000? I can't. I don't think I can accept that. No, I can't accept that. If I didn't know it was stolen, how can I prove it? Would I have to prove it was stolen? I can't be out here just accepting anything from everybody. It's just... Okay, go ahead. Read this verse 1 over here. Just read down. Start at verse 1.
Okay. Verse 1 says,
Get that thing.
when Yahweh your Elohim brings you into the land which you go to possess, he shall also clear away many nations before you. The Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. 7 nations greater and mightier than you. And Yahweh your Elohim gives them over to you. You shall strike them and put them under the ban completely.
Under the ban.
They under the ban, those people.
Make no covenant with them, and show them no favor.
Okay, so when we think about what the Most High is doing over here, the Most High, he has a particular way about himself. And this is kind of a codification of something that he's already instituted in the hearts and minds of Abraham and his seeds going down forward, right? Where he wants for his people to be his people and not to have these outside influences to bring us over into following after these other ways. But he's saying over here, these particular ones, he's putting them under the ban. Like these people is off limits, right? Just so happened that the people that Esau is deciding to marry over here, not the ones that was from Ishmael, but those other 2 wives over there, you know, they belong to these people that are going to, in the future, be put under the ban, right? Okay, keep on going. Verse 3.
And do not intermarry with them. You do not give your daughter to his son, and you do not take his daughter for your son.
Okay, so when we think about this again, we're thinking about the principle, right? Because I don't know who the Canaanites are. I don't know if they made it all the way to 2023. I don't know that, right? But what I do know is that the principle of this idea of, you know, going, like these people, they had other gods. They served other gods. They did not serve the Most High. And so he wants for his people to serve him and to serve him alone. And so these people who were being displaced were only able to cause his people to move away from him. And so the same thing is true when we think about these people who don't believe in Messiah. These people who don't have a relationship with Yeshua HaMashiach. These people, as far as I'm concerned, are no different than Hittites, Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, Jebusites. If you don't believe in Messiah, I don't care if you black or not. You just like these other peoples. You in the forbidden zone. You're not an Israelite just because you black. If you don't believe in Messiah, you off limits. Right? You just like Ishmael to me. You might got the same biological father, but you moving in a different direction. Right? And so this principle that we see over here, you know, it became Torah eventually. Okay, keep on reading down.
Where'd I stop at?
3. Read verse 4.
4 says, for he turns your sons away from following me.
This is the reason, right? This is what they're going to do. They're going to turn the sons away from following after the Most High. And not only turn them away, it's not only just going to be turning them away from following the Most High, but what else is going to be?
To serve other mighty ones. Then the displeasure of Yahweh shall burn against you, and promptly destroy you.
Okay, very good. And so that's what the Most High said. Keep on reading.
But this is what you do to them. Break down their slaughter places, and smash their pillars, and cut down their asherim, and burn their carved images with fire.
Get rid of all that stuff. Okay, keep on going.
For you are a set apart people to Elohim, to Yahweh your Elohim. Yahweh your Elohim has chosen you to be a people for himself, a treasured possession above all the peoples on the face of the earth.
How are you, as a child of the Most High, a believer in Yeshua HaMashiach, how you gonna go out here and find you a wife that's a heathen right now, and be having yourself be aligned with what we looking at over here? The only real candidate got to be somebody who done already had these things smashed in their lives, not the potential to smash them. Because if we was talking about potential, then you wouldn't have to smash the things. You could just get whoever you want, and then you could smash them after the fact.
I was about to say, because you know how people be like, I could change them. I can change them.
Nah, you can't. You can't. You got to start with a clean slate. You know what I'm saying? That's what this is talking about over here. And so this is a principle thing, right? And again, we're just seeing the principle with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because again, and Laban was over there. I don't know what Laban was doing over there.
He had idols. He was mad about the idols. Even
Right, he was doing all kind of weird things, right? But
he said,
but the principle remains the same, right? Here, keep on reading.
Yahweh did not set his love on you, nor choose you because you were more numerous than any other people, for you were least of all peoples. But because of Yahweh loving you, and because of him guarding the oath which he swore to your fathers, Yahweh has brought you out with a strong hand, and ransomed you from the house of bondage, from the hand of Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim.
Verse 9.
And you shall know that Yahweh your Elohim, he is Elohim, the trustworthy El, guarding covenant and loving commitment for 1,000 generations with those who love him, and those who guard his commandments. But repaying those who hate him to their face to destroy them. He does not delay to do so with him who hates him. He repays him to his face.
Okay, very good. All right, so when we look over here and we see that this is something that the Most High is trying to teach his people. And by the way, he got to keep on teaching them this throughout. Like, this is an issue with Israel. It never stops being an issue. It never stops being an issue. Because people are so carnal, right? Because of the carnal minds of his people. This is, this issue never goes away. But, we live in a time in this day and age where people say, well, we live in today's age and we have to accept all peoples. We have to accept the words of the Most High, right? Anybody who is not dealing with Messiah is anti-Messiah, right? It's not like there's no middle ground. Either you're Messiah or you're anti-Messiah, right? If you don't believe in Messiah, you anti-Messiah, right? And so when we think about, who it is that we are supposed to be joining ourselves to, we got to keep these things in mind. Is that we can't be going and joining ourselves to these different peoples, right? Because we're not going. First of all, we only bringing harm to our own selves. It's interesting when we look at Proverbs. Look at Proverbs chapter 5. Start reading at verse 1 here.
5 says, "My son, listen to my wisdom. Incline your ear to my understanding, so as to watch over discretion, and your lips guard knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drip honey, and her mouth is smoother than oil."
He said, he said, the lips of a strange woman, them things got some of that lip gloss on them,
Vaseline.
and them things is shiny than a mug, and they look juicy, like some honey dripping down off of them. Right? He said that her mouth is smoother than oil. He's saying that it looks delicious to you, the strange woman. But what does it say in verse 4?
But in the end, she is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged
He
sword.
said that in the end, she is bitter as wormwood. What's that? What is that? La'anah. La'anah. Unused root supposed to mean to curse. Wormwood regarded as poisonous, therefore a cursed hemlock. Wormwood. We think about wormwood. We see it in the scriptures. It's symbolically bitter and causes calamity and sorrow. When we think about times in the scriptures when we see this reference to wormwood, it's always bad, right? And so when we think about the end result, right? It's interesting when you look at, in the future Israel, when you think about Balaam, right? When he taught the people how to defeat Israel, it was to just get some of these strange women with these lips that drip like honey, right? And the end result is just like we see over here in Proverbs, right? And so when you think about the problems, that you're bringing into your situation, right? If I'm somebody who I love Messiah, I want for my home to be following after the will and the ways of the Most High. And then I'm a single man and I need to find me a wife. I go out here and I find me this person at the grocery store. And not that there's nothing wrong with finding somebody at the grocery store, but I'm just saying just this random person that I find. And, I decide, this is going to be the one that I want to make my wife because she has shiny lips and her mouth is smoother than oil. And so, but she don't love Messiah. Right? And so when I say, I want for things to be shut down, because the Shabbat is about to begin, it's going to be an argument. Because those ain't her ways. Like her ways is like, oh, it's Friday night. We about to turn up. I've been at work all week. I'm ready to go out and party or whatever. It's Friday night. The Saturday is the only day that I could go to the mall and go shop. Do people still go to the mall? I don't even know. Saturdays are the only day that I got to go out and do all of these, all of my businesses and things. I can't be sitting at home. I can't be going to the assembly. I got to go take care of this business. So now you got these little arguments and things that you getting into because you saw them honey drip lips that was smoother than oil, but you never thought about your whole situation, right? And so you got, here, let's keep on reading because these verses got more things to talk about, and the same thing. Keep on going.
Says her feet go number 5.
Verse 5.
Yeah, her feet go down to death. Her steps lay hold of Sheol.
That's this person, right? Because she already dead. We talking about somebody who not following Messiah. Her feet, they walking towards death. She already dead, and her feet are continuing to walk towards death. Meanwhile, you supposed to be walking towards light.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't say, well, she's my wife. This is my household. So she, she is, she's covered under my mantle of holiness. She got to stand before the Most High and be judged on her own merits.
Mm-hmm.
Keep on reading, verse 6.
Verse 6, she does not consider the path of life.
She can't consider the path of life because she has never been connected to life.
Her ways are unstable. You do not know it. So now listen to me, you children, and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Keep your way far from her, and do not come near the door of her house.
It said, do not even come near the door of her house. Like, don't even think about going over to even buy where she live at. Like, this is the way we supposed to be thinking about these things, right? Mm-hmm. And why, though?
Lest you give your splendors,
your glory,
to others, and your years to one who is cruel.
Verse 10.
Lest strangers be filled with your strength, and your labors go to the house of a foreigner.
This to me, this is interesting when you look at these last verses over here, because when you deal with these relationships with people that are unequally yoked, when people, you got one person trying to serve the Most High and the other one who isn't, right? And so let's just say that your situation don't even work out. And y'all can't even be together no more. And you end up putting this one away. You put her away, but you still got kids. So she take your kids, and then she go find some other person then they get married, and then but you sitting up here sewing into their situation. You give your splendor to others, and your years to one who is cruel. Your life, right? It's almost as if you have a portion of your life that is squandered, wasted to this one who don't have life, who only has death. Right? Who is cruel, this person, right? And so now your strength, when you talk about a man and his strength, that's his seed.
Yes.
Right? The beginning of Jacob talking about Reuben, he said that he was the beginning of his strength. It says, let strangers be filled with your strength, and your labors go to the house of a foreigner. Your seed goes out, and the strength of your seed is out somewhere else. It's almost like you have your inheritance. Your inheritance is like split up. And like going into these other directions where you're not taking it to, all because of you not choosing correctly. And so when we think about, again, the principle that we find over here with Esau and Jacob, and the instructions that's given to Isaac in regards to finding a wife, these are things that us as parents in this faith, we got some things that we got to face in these days and times, because at some point our little children is going to grow up, and if we if they care about these ways, they could grow up and just decide that they want to live a life that's unto these other gods or what have you, right? But if they get to the place where they decide that they want to live a life that's unto righteousness, we have to be able to understand wisdom, right? And not take on, not add problems for yourself where you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
Where in these situations where we're not even just talking about just problems, we're talking about things that's going to bring you down, right? When the scripture talks about wormwood, right? These are things. Here, let's go back. Let's go over to one more verse over here in Deuteronomy. Look at Deuteronomy 29. Excuse me. 29. Read 16 down through 18.
It says, "For you know how we dwelt in the land of Mitzrayim, and how we passed through the nations which you passed through. And you saw their abominations and their idols, wood and stone, silver and gold, which were with them. Lest there should be among you a man or woman or clan or tribe whose heart turns away today from Yahweh our Elohim, to go and serve the mighty ones of these nations, lest there should be among you a root bearing bitterness or wormwood."
Okay, so we see there's a connection between this bitterness, this wormwood, with those who are going to serve these other mighty ones. And so, we have to really get to the place of understanding that, this set apart life that we live, that we at some point intentionally choose, is something that, the principles that we see in the scriptures is for us to be able to build families, right? To not only just deal with your own self, right? But it becomes counterproductive for you to build up yourself in Messiah and in a life of righteousness, only to grow up and become a grown person and join into a relationship with someone who can only cause you to stumble and fall and break away from life. And again, we think about Yeshua. He said he is the way, the truth, and the life. Outside of Messiah, there is no life. And so, again, when we look back at back to Genesis. When we look back to Genesis 28, when we see that again, this subject of who it is that Jacob and Esau are marrying, it's just interesting that, again, like I said, when we look at 26, 27, and now 28, the chapters, we have this same issue that's brought to the table. And we really have to think about what it is that this thing is teaching us. And I'm saying that we have to be able to understand that those that in terms of our intimate relationships, marriage being at the top of the list, we have to really be intentional about only putting time and energy and into things that are connected to the Most High, to Yeshua, right? If you think that you're able to have these strong, meaningful relationship with people that are living a life that's contrary to the Most High, the things that they like that you might say that you don't like right now. Well, he's a cool person, but he does this, that, and the other thing. Eventually, you're going to find yourself indulging in those things, whatever those things may be. Eventually, if you don't, if you bind yourself, if you connect yourself to people that aren't like-minded people, they're going to change you before you change them. Right? That's just, I don't know why it's like that, but that's just what it is. When you think about light and darkness, you could be in a place that's so dark that a dim light is not doing anything.
Yeah.
Right? It really has to be a super strong light, powerful, extra powerful light, in order to make any type of change in a dark room. And then even at that, it's only in the direction that the light is facing. Right? It's kind of an overwhelming thing. This is darkness. Right? And so, 2 Corinthians, Paul's saying, what business do light and darkness have together? They don't have any business. What business does Yeshua have with Belial? No business, right? These things are polar opposites. And when we decide that we want to follow after the true and living Elohim, we can't have these strong, meaningful relationships with those that are on the other side. These things are always going to be counter productive to what it is that we are trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's keep on going over here. Let's look some more over here at Genesis 28. So we see over here, let's go down, read for us again verse 13.
And see, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am...
Oh, wait, hold on a second. Read, my fault. Read 12 and 13.
And he dreamed and saw a ladder set up on the earth, and its topper reached to the heavens. He saw messengers of Elohim going up and coming down on it. And see, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am Elohim, and I am Yahweh Elohim of Abraham your father, and the Elohim of Yitzchak, the land on which you are lying. I give it to you and your seed.
Okay, very good. This is interesting. This is interesting here when we look at verse 13, where, first of all, Well, first of all, it says that Yahweh stood above it. Jacob saw this ladder with angels, with messengers of Elohim going up the ladder and coming down the ladder. And above the ladder, he saw Yahweh, it says, standing above it. And so he saw the Most High. It says he saw Yahweh standing above the ladder. He saw someone standing there. And he understood that someone to be Yahweh. First of all, I thought that was interesting because no man has seen Yahweh. No man has seen him before. But we see these situations over here where these people, they saw something. You know, I'm going to say that he saw Yeshua. Yeshua said, if you saw me, you saw my Father. If we think about the Most High and who he is, and the fact that, you know, the heavens of heavens can't contain him, we're talking about the Most High who, you know, he doesn't have a form. He doesn't have a shape. When we think about Yeshua and who he is, as it says in Colossians, he is the express image of the invisible Elohim. And so when we see these situations where we see that Yahweh is being seen or is standing somewhere or he's being visibly seen, I'm saying that what you've actually seen was Yeshua. But we're talking about this place over here, right? And so this ladder that's going up, this place is a holy place. It seems, right? He went to this place. He laid in this place. And he was able to experience this connection with the Almighty. But not only was this place a holy place, but you also have to think about the actual person who was able to experience this particular situation, which in this case here is Jacob. And so we have to think about the connection. Think about the connection that we see over here with this place, this vision that the Most High has given to Jacob. And the fact that he's seeing this ladder, he's seeing this thing that connects connects man to the Most High. This ability for there to be this connection from that which is in this earth to the heavens, to the heavenlies, right? And so when we think about this imagery that we see over here, for me, when I look at this, I think about the fact that because of the situation that we as humans are in, right? In this carnal body, in this body of flesh and blood and bone, right? We, because of sin, because of transgression of the law, have been disconnected from the Most High. But there is a way that we are able to reconnect to the Most High and be able to experience Him and hear from Him and see him. Right? And now we know that the only way is through Yeshua HaMashiach. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that this thing that we see, this Jacob's ladder that we see here is, I think it's interesting that it talks about, first of all, this ladder, this connecting thing between Yahweh, who stands at the top of it, and Jacob, who's at the bottom in this place where this thing even comes to begin with. But I think it's interesting that the one that's on the top of the ladder, like if you think about climbing a ladder, right? If you're climbing up a ladder, the person at the top could actually stop you from getting to the top of the ladder. The one that's at the top of the ladder. Right? You could climb all the way up the ladder, but if somebody's like standing there in the way on the top of the ladder, you can't get off of the ladder. Right? And nobody wants to just be on a ladder. Right? A ladder is a means to an end. You want to get from where you are to a higher place. So you use a ladder. Right? And so when I think about this whole thing over here, this idea of the fact that Yahweh stood above the ladder, it's almost as if he's the ladder is a way to get up to where he is, but he's also able to say whether you actually able to get off of the ladder and actually be there, right? And so when we think about this life that we live, there's rules to this life that are not made up by us. Like, we don't make up the rules. We don't create a standard and then live by the standard that we create. The Most High makes the standard. He makes the way. And we can't go our own way, some other way. That's another interesting thing about thinking about this ladder that Yahweh stood above. It's not even like a highway. It's not even like a road. Right? It's not even like it's this big thing that you're able to travel on. Like if you think about like living on the east coast of America, wanting to go to, Los Angeles, California. There's so many ways to get there, right? There's probably a million ways to go from here to there that you could go and get there, some short, some long, right? But if you're talking about a ladder, right, there's only one way there, right? There's only one way to get there, is to go up this ladder. And so it's interesting not only to think about the fact that there's a connection, at least in Jacob's mind, between the location that he was, as if to say, this was holy ground that he deemed as holy ground and called actually the house of Elohim. But this was a place that the Most High actually came and met him. But I just thought that it was interesting the way in which he met him, right? The way in which he kind of formed this, this imagery of the situation, between the messengers of the Most High and the ladder, and actually, where he is. What's this here? Did anyone else learn how to make Jacob's ladder using strings with your hands as a youth? I've heard of that, but I don't know what a Jacob's ladder actually looks like.
Hissy probably know.
I did the craft before.
You did the craft
when I was smaller. Yes.
Let's see some visuals. Only one person can go up and down a ladder at once. That's true. And so, that kind of caused you to think about a situation where, just how we was talking about the idea of, finding, relationships, spouses, marriages. Each person, has to climb that ladder on an individual basis, right? I can't climb my ladder for nobody but myself. I'm the only one that can climb the ladder for me. Nobody can climb it for me. I can go up, and then somebody else can come up behind me, but I can't. I definitely can't carry nobody up no ladder. Right? How can I have to. I can only bring myself up a ladder, and so we're talking about a thing that's an individual thing, and so we have to be able to, not in our life, going back to the other thing we was talking about, not in our life, bring complications into our life. If I'm sitting up here trying to pull somebody up a ladder, I'm probably going to end up falling off the ladder. I can't bring a full grown person up a ladder. I'm just going to say that. But I think that when we think about this situation, this place, Jacob, he qualifies, I think, for to be able to experience this special situation over here, right? Because it's interesting. It's interesting when you look at we can't ignore these things that we see over in terms of the words, right? At this point in the game, we see that Yahweh stood above it. He's telling him who he is. He says, I'm the Elohim of your granddaddy, and I'm the Elohim of your daddy. Right? And the land that you're lying on, I'm gonna give it to you and your seed. But he didn't say I'm your Elohim right there, right? He didn't say that I'm your Elohim. But what we see here is kind of this transition, I would say, where we see that Jacob is establishing this connection with the Almighty, and he's having this intimate time experience with the Most High, where he's having a revelation here at this point, and he understood the gravity of the situation, and from this time forward, he says, when we go down, if we go down to the bottom, he said, I shall certainly give a tenth, a tithe to you, he says. And so when we look at this situation here with Jacob, he's learning of the Most High, right? He's gaining an understanding of who he is. And, I think also thinking about Jacob and what's going on, this brings reassurance to Jacob after this troubling period that he's going through. Right? He's going into this situation where he's basically on the run. Right? He's on the run from his brother who wants to kill him. But the one thing he's able to look and know and see is that can you imagine being like in this quiet place, wherever you are, but someone's like after you, like someone's like chasing you. Like, I feel like you would just be like constantly looking around and hearing little cracklings in the woods and thinking that someone's out there coming to get you. Especially when you think about the fact that his brother said that he was out to get him.
And he's a hunter.
And he's a hunter. Right? Can you imagine being somewhere, out in the middle of nowhere where all he got is this rock for his pillow, and he's out here and he's just wide open, ripe for the taking. And then right in this moment, the Most High comes and gives him this vision. He basically opens up the what he thought. He opened up the gate of heaven to him, to Jacob. He literally opens up in Jacob's mind. The gate of heaven is open to him at this point. And so again, he's able to experience the Most High coming and being with him in this crucial time in his life, and able to give him. He's basically confirming. He confirms the blessing that was given to him, which is more reassurance, because if he dies, if he gets killed by his brother, then he can't be fruitful in the land, right? If he's killed before he even finds a wife, he can't be fruitful in the land, right? If his brother succeeds in catching him, the blessings can't come to pass. But when we hear and see the Most High, reaffirming the situation. You think about what they did with Rebecca and Jacob, what they did with the blessing snatch. The thing that pushed Rebecca forward was, in fact, her belief in what the Most High said he was going to do. The reason why that she was so adamant about what she did was because what was a result of the belief that she had in the words that the Most High spoke. And so his words pushed her forward. And so when we think about Jacob out here in this wilderness, in this place, by himself, in this quiet land at night, where he's open to, attacks. The Most High comes and gives him his own words. Like he probably heard his father talk about the blessing, Abraham's blessing, over and over again. Right? But the Most High comes into Jacob's situation, and now he's saying these things that he must have heard about already. He's saying it now to him. And he's making this thing that he's heard about from his father, and that was given to his father's father, now is becoming real in his life. He's experiencing the Most High on a personal level, which is, the thing that's necessary for each and every one of us, right? We can all hear about the way that the Most High came and dealt with this one or that one in their life, and it could be a magnificent thing. It could be great. It's awesome that the Most High came and did this or that for whomever he did it for. But until you're able to experience the Most High for yourself, those things don't matter. They can't do anything. They can't add to or take away from your situation. You have to have an intimate relationship with the Most High yourself, right? Because only one person can go up and down a ladder at once.
That's right.
Only you are able to go and meet with the Most High. And, you know, he has something specific for you as an individual, right? That nobody's able to give you but him. And, you know, it's interesting when we look at Jacob and his situation where all of them, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we don't have much of a the scripture don't give us a lot about Isaac, right? His story is kind of short, right? But
Very short.
when you think about Abraham, you know, we're able to see his journey, right? We're able to see the things that you know, that come, the bumps in the road, right? We're able to see his missteps, right? We're able to see in areas that he conquers, right? We're able to see areas where he fails. You know, the same thing is beginning to be true about Jacob, where we're able to see kind of this process that he's on, this journey that he's began, that he's moving on, that we're able to witness him go and join himself, become joined to the Most High. And so it's giving us a picture of, you know, how we, you know, things that happen in our situation where we're able to go from, you know, the beginning of our story to the end, right? And we're able to gain all of these little parts and pieces from the scriptures, which in fact is our, you know, it's the point of the scriptures, right? We're able to look at these forefathers and their situations to help us in our journey as we go along. And so it's interesting that we're literally able to see the Most High deal with Jacob in this particular situation where he really was, you know, in the midst of this troubling point, and he almost instantly comes and deals with him and gives him this reassurance, you know, when he reaffirms the covenant, saying that, you know, all those things which I said to your father and your father's father, these things will now, you know, become reality in your life. And so, you know, we see this revelation that that he has. If we look at verse, read again verse 20.
And Yaakov made a vow, saying, seeing Elohim is with me, and has kept me in this way that I am going, and has given me bread to eat and a garment to put on,
Oh yeah, keep on.
when I have returned to my father's house in peace, and Yahweh has been my Elohim, then this stone which I have set as a standing column shall be Elohim's house. And of all that you give me, I shall certainly give a tenth to you.
Okay, so he said he knows, he sees, he understands that Elohim is with him. He kept them all this way, but not only kept them all this way, but 21, when I've returned to my father's house. He's not going back to his father's house till after he finds a wife.
Mm-hmm.
And he ain't even seen no woman yet. So you talking about finding a woman, then then marrying her, and then bringing her back. Oh, but not even bringing her back, but he's waiting on his mom to give him the word to say that it's safe to come back. And so, but when we think about the way that this is being spoken by him, this vow that he's making, this is showing kind of these pictures of faith for us, right? Because he's understanding who Elohim is. He's understanding his keeping power. We saw before where it talked about the idea of him being a shield, right? And so when we think about the protection that we see with Elohim, Yaakov is understanding this. And we can see that he understands this, especially with verse 21, because he's just at the beginning of his journey, and he's talking about when the journey is over, when he comes back, right? And so we're able to see that Jacob, with this situation, this is a revelation that he's had. He's looked and he's seen the Most High, and he's learning and understanding more who he is, and he's living his life accordingly. All right, so let's see what we got over here. These comments. What's this say? Learning how to make Jacob's ladder as a youth actually led me to the scripture later in life, because I wasn't really paying much attention when I learned it in Sunday school. I don't know what a Jacob's ladder is. I guess it's some kind of craft or something.
We did that before.
Not me.
I know, I'm just saying we did it though.
Yeah, some kids. That's
Popsicle sticks.
Was it just a ladder or something? Oh.
And we made it in multiple ways. We made it with pretzels before.
Pretzels. It's just a ladder that you call Jacob's ladder.
Well, we just made. I'm saying that we've done crafts before for Jacob's ladder.
Okay. All right. Okay, so, well, that is the chapter. Do we have any last questions, comments before we go ahead and be done for now? Okay, very good. All right, so that being the case, guess we'll go ahead and be done for now. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for all of the comments. Y'all willing, we'll be back on next Shabbat to continue with our look at Jacob's life. It's about to get a little more interesting as we go forward into his situation. All right, y'all willing, we'll be able to come back next week, do it all again. Hope everyone has a blessed rest of your Shabbat, and we'll say for now, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.